Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insight and advice from the best instructors featured on the Golf Smarter podcast. Great golf instruction never gets old. Our interview library features hundreds of hours of game improvement conversations like this that are no longer available in any podcast app.
I do have a copy of a 13-page letter that Ben Hogan wrote to a pro back in 1948. One of the secrets of one golf swing he used. He says the left shoulder should tilt down, the left side sags in, the left knee sags in towards the right. And then he said, it feels like the belt buckle is the furthest part of your body away from the target at the top of your swing. He said the head is still in the same position as throughout the swing. The belt buckle, the belly button, is the closest part of the body to the target.
For members
what
only,
Ben
Golf
Hogan
Smarter
was
number
describing
278, published on
a little
April
bit
12,
of one of the components of
2011.
stack and tilt golf. It's a little bit more than what the stack and tilt teaches, because the left side, Hogan said, sags in. The stack and tilters, they keep their left knee pointing at the golf ball. Hogan let it go further. Then again, I can look at this letter and say, well, Hogan was describing a driver versus his irons.
With another interview from the archives of Golf Smarter, here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Billy.
Hey, thanks, Fred. Great to be here.
It's been a long time. It's been 4 years since you made your first appearance on the Golf Smarter podcast. And at the time, you had just recently been named the Northern California PGA Teacher of the Year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was a little while ago. Still reaping the benefits of it. The PGA is real nice to do something like that. It does help out marketing the name and stuff.
Well, it's interesting. What is the advantage of having that next to your name, being called a Teacher of the Year by a different branch of the PGA teaching?
It's interesting, Fred. You know, there's a lot of guys out there that are great teachers, and I think just the recognition that, you know, I think it's 1,200 card-holding members up in that section, you know, vote for you, and it just gives you some recognition, and people tend to listen to you. I've had a lot of people contact me through my YouTube videos, and they want lessons, and I think several people had said that caught their eye, so it does help.
And I see the kind of respect that it would garner on the professional side, but as far as students and increasing your teaching business, does that have an impact as well when it says that next to your name? Yeah,
it does, yeah. The recognition is fantastic, but you know, I've also, you know, done a lot of studying on my own from that. I think it was well deserved. I hate to say it that way. I don't sound cocky or anything, but I've just put in my time with like learning from everybody out there. I mean, it goes way back from just as a boy. I got to meet Bobby Locke. He taught me how to putt and stuff like that when I was just a kid. He took an interest. This was up in Vermont. And then I befriended Mac O'Grady down in Palm Springs. I lived 4 doors down from him, so I started studying the golfing machine. And just around the gamut, Eddie Narins, Jerry Barber, Ben Doyle. I tried to take lessons from all the greats. Mike Austin. Took a lesson from Paul Runyon years ago. And I continue to do it today. I just finished some lessons this past summer with Mike Bennett to learn more about the stack and tilt.
One of the things that I've asked various teachers in the past and seem to get a consistent answer is find yourself a teacher. It's okay to interview various teachers and find someone that you feel you can work with, and work with your teacher, stay with that teacher. You agree with that? Interview. Yeah, well, you know, and it comes down to a lot of what I'm finding out more and more is people have to know what their capabilities are. Mm. And when I say that, I mean, you know, find out, you know, they know themselves if they're injured, and they can kind of look on the websites now and find out if there's a swing that might help them one way or the other. So they might want to find like a one-plane swing teacher versus a two-plane swing teacher, or the stack and tilt stuff, or right-side swing theory. And then, yeah, definitely you want to interview the teacher, or at least, maybe the interview process might be taking one lesson just to see if you get along and you like the way the guy communicates with you. That's so important. I mean, I've had people that immediately they get what I'm saying, and I don't have to go through a lot of different explanations trying to show them how to do something. And then there's others that, God, can you give me something visual? And it's interesting how people learn, and then you watch them make connections in their own brain. But it is important that somebody finds somebody that they understand what they're saying.
Well, that was kind of a loaded question because I wanted to see if you agreed with that concept. And now that you say that you do, a moment ago you talked about all the different people you had lessons with. Did that screw you up or does that help? I mean, unless you have probably very opinionated people.
I went to those people to learn their methods. I didn't specifically go. I'm kind of like a chameleon. You could put a club in my hand and say, hey, could you show me like what Mike Austin used to teach? And he used to, teach throwing the club head at the top. People called it casting, and he said that's not casting at all because the rotation of your spines happen at the same time. So all these angles get lost at the golf ball. If you go to a stack and toe teacher, they talk about the flying wedge and holding on to retaining some angles in the wrists and stuff. And for me, I once I knew that I was destined to be a teacher, not a player. And I think I told you the story about that when I saw.
Oh, please repeat it.
59. It came about when I watched Glenn Day shoot 59 one day. I was, trying to get the ball into the clubhouse, and I think I ended up with like a 68. And we're like betting, one down automatics and stuff. And Glenn says on the last hole, I'll give you a chance. I'll putt out with my wedge. Now this is at like Mission Hills down in the desert. It wasn't an easy course. He's got a 6-footer, and I looked at the card and I said, Glenn, you might want to use your putter for that one. And he said, why? And I said, well, it's for 59. And he said, I've shot 59 before. And he knocked it in. And I just realized at that point, I think I better just start teaching because, Glenn obviously had a great career, but kind of struggled winning on the PGA Tour. He'd won a couple of times, Harbortown and someplace else. So I kind of knew at that point teaching might be the best place for me.
That's so interesting.
Why?
Yeah. And now look at you.
yeah. I love what I do, Fred. I really do. I get a kick out of it. But I learn as much as I can about different methods of golf, the golf swing. And, I pretty much, sometimes I have to invent swings for people. I had a guy on one of my, I do some video lessons. Now it's made a lot easier through the apps of V1 and stuff. But a gentleman sent me a video of himself, and he said, I'm basically crippled with my spine. He's all twisted up, poor guy, and I pretty much had to invent a swing for him. And it was a blast because I can tap into all this information that I've got from great instructors.
One of the instructors that we've had on this program, I'm looking at your website at Billy Bondaruk. Billy Bondaruk. For the spelling, it's Bondaruk, and I say Bondaruk, and it just doesn't seem like it would spell that way. But if you're looking at the website, you should check it out. Billy Bondaruk is Bondaruk.com. I'm looking at your website, and you have different swings listed that you show with YouTube videos. And one of them you say is the Ben Hogan's golf swing. One of the instructors that we've had on here that's created quite a ruckus with the audience is Tony Manzoni. And Tony Manzoni says that he's found the secret to Ben Hogan's golf swing. And he's touched a chord with a lot of listeners. First of all, is that at all possible to know what the secret to Ben Hogan's golf swing is? And two, do you know Tony?
Well, I said there's a lot of, I'm going to call them Ben Hogan nuts out there, and I'm one of them. I think first you have to realize that Ben Hogan had a bunch of different swings that he used. One previous to his car accident, and then once he was in his car accident, he struggled getting over to his left side. So he was always a tinkerer, and I don't think he ever gave away his secret to anybody. Although I do have a copy of a 13-page letter that Ben Hogan wrote to a pro back in 1948. The pro's name was Pat Mahoney. He was the head pro at Pasatiempo, and Ben had gone up there to play Pasatiempo because he heard so much about it. And perhaps he was trying to get a feel for Alistair McKenzie design courses with the Masters coming up or something. But I guess Pat had treated him so well that he wrote a beautiful letter to him.
Ben Hogan was a letter writer, wasn't he?
I guess so. Well, he didn't have email back then.
Yeah, right. I mean, from what I've read, he seemed to have been a prolific letter writer. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because his penmanship is incredible, and he's even got some diagrams in this. And and I teach one of these theories, but this I have to realize this is the Ben Hogan just before the accident. This was in '48. I believe his accident was after that. So when you watch on some videos on YouTube, you'll see Ben Hogan practicing with a cigarette in his mouth, and he's trying to keep C6 steady on top of the golf ball. That's right underneath your chin. There's other theories that Ben Hogan he said something in a book written by George Knudson. I never felt like I was turning back. I was always moving forward. He did things with his wrists. His left wrist specifically cupped it so he could bowl it. But in this letter, it's fascinating because one of the secrets of one golf swing he used, he says the left shoulder should tilt down, the left side sags in, the left knee sags in towards the right, and then he said it feels like the belt buckle is the furthest part of your body away from the target at the top of your swing. And I'm just going to fast forward this to the end of the letter, towards the end of the letter when he describes the downswing. He says the head is still in the same position as throughout the swing. The belt buckle, the belly button, is the closest part of the body to the target. So what Ben Hogan was describing was a little bit of one of the components of stack and tilt golf. The head stays still, and the belly button, if it rocked backwards, your hip motion would rock, and that would tilt your spine to the left as you rotated. Now, it's a little bit more than what the stack and tilt teaches because the left side, Hogan said, sags in. The stack and tilters, they keep their left knee pointing at the golf ball. Hogan let it go further. Then again, I can look at this letter and say, well, Hogan was describing a driver versus his irons. So the comment that Tony made, that he found the secret to Ben Hogan's swing, I don't want to put him down for it because he's a great guy. I love him, but I'd have to just ask the question, which swing? All right.
Yeah, I guess so. So there's no single secret.
Yeah, Hogan
31 flavors.
And he there's another interesting story about Al Barco.
Sure, the writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been on the show.
Went to Hogan.
Yeah, we've had him on.
I don't know if he ever told you the story in the show, but he said that he went and interviewed Hogan, and Hogan said, I'm going to give you the secret to the golf swing. And after lunch, Al had to bring it up again because he was so excited to hear what the secret was. And as they were walking out of the lunchroom at Shady Oaks, Hogan said, well, take your golf stance, now turn your neck to the right. And he basically said that was the secret. It allowed your body to turn more. Now, if I were there, I would have to say, well, how do you tilt your neck and stuff like this? But that's what Al said, and it was fascinating. Maybe he was just projecting that he knew Al's swing or something, and he said, that's what you need to do. Who knows,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we'll only find out in the afterlife what Hogan's real secret was.
Well, he also, I guess if you put today's ethics on it, if he knew he was the press, he could have been screwing around with him, too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, go write this. Tell people that's my secret. See you later, kid. Get out of here.
There are some fascinating pictures in Hogan's book, though, 5 Fundamentals. Hogan has a diagram of he draws like an oval circle for his shoulders, and then a broken oval circle for the hips. And if I think it's on page 73 or 76, it's right around that part of the book. If you look at it closely, you'll realize Hogan's shoulder circle, his oval, is over the left side of his hips. As his hips are moving, he turned his hips quite a bit. And that's something that the conventional style golf swing says not to do. A lot of instructors are out there teaching, keep your right knee flexed, that's your post. You try to wind your body up against it, and, granted, I stay in shape, I'm 52 years old, but I can only get about 70 degrees of turn out of my shoulders that way. And then once I let the right leg straighten, my hips turn more. God, you can get all the way up to 120. Not that I tell anybody, turn your shoulders 120 degrees, but you can do it, and you're not going to, hurt your body or tighten up your muscles or pull anything. So fascinating to me that Hogan really may have been I can't say he was one of the first stack and tilters, and not all of his swing is stack and tilt, that's for sure.
Is that it should be on every golfer's shelf? Is Ben Hogan's the 5 lessons of the fundamental golf swing?
I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah, and just to let everybody know, of course, that it is at golfsmarter.com in our Golfer's Mart section. We have a whole book section there, and anytime anyone mentions a golf book, we put it in there so you can get it. And you're buying it through Amazon, so you can get it as cheap as 98 cents if you want. But that book is available, the Ben Hogan book, so everyone should check that out. Everyone should have that on there. I guess that and Golf in the Kingdom are two musts in every.
Yeah, they're both pieces of art as far as I'm concerned with golf. I don't know. It's funny how that book got written, and I think some comments about perhaps the writer was trying to make a buck back then too. But I think it was just done masterfully. It's got a lot of great stuff just to kind of ponder about and see. Well, if I start here and just change it a little bit, don't be scared to tweak something for yourself. Because Hogan didn't want to hook the ball. If you're a slicer, some of that book might not help you very much,
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have both of those problems. So the reason I reached back out to have you back on the show is, I wanted to talk to you again. I enjoyed our first conversation, and I just love your accent because you're definitely not a Northern Californian. I love the New England accent, really Boston. But you were talking online in various conversations about the stack and tilt. And I'm fascinated because I've heard various physical therapists, golf, physical therapists, and I've heard them say that is actually one of the worst swings you can do for your back. If you have back issues, that the stack and tilt is not a good way to go. Comments?
That's interesting. I've got 2 lower vertebrae, L5, S1, and there's something else just above that, L3 or 4, 2 bulging discs. And I had to switch to the right side swing first, which is a Gary Edwin swing where you set up on your left side and basically you never move off of it. It's an injury-proof swing. And I could get the golf ball around the golf course, but I started doing stack and tilt for more power. And there is absolutely no injury to my lower back. So if I can describe what stack and tilt motion,
please.
I don't know what it has to do with the spine, is I actually think that the more conventional swing is much more damaging to your body because your sternum, or right above it, C6, moves off the golf ball. And then to get back through impact, there's a big lateral hip shift where the center of your hips, where your belt buckle is, moves laterally. You're supposed to try to resist with your upper body as you're turning your hips. That puts some real tweaking and twisting on your spine. That's how I injured my back through golf. The stack and tilt motion, one of the components of it, and I prefer to do it a little bit, more than what even the stack and tilt teachers are prescribing, I let my hip center move, and I try to keep my shoulder center on top of the golf ball. Now, what that looks and feels like is, if you can picture this, try to describe it as best I can. As you tilt forward or flex forward in the golf swing, your back is like a slope of a hill. Now, instead of feeling like I turn, which I don't, instead I feel like the lower part of my spine, where my right glute is stretching downward behind me towards the ground. And as I'm doing that, my right leg is straightening, and I feel like my neck is extending upward towards the sky, not directly above my head. Of course, I'm still in my tilt. So my spine feels like an accordion. It's getting stretched. And it's one of the best feelings my back could ever have in golf.
Well, wait a minute. If it's being stretched in one direction, that means being compressed in a different, isn't it?
I'm never compressing it. It's already starting in a flex position forward. So I'm extending from my backswing, and I've kept the extension as I shift my pendulum hip motion through to the other side. If you held the golf club up in front of your head, Fred, and you hold the grip between a few fingers and just let the club head swing back and forth, that's the pendulum motion. Mm-hmm. The club head is the center of your hips, and where you're holding with your fingers is the center of your shoulders, or right where your throat is, basically. So as I let my hips swing back, I feel like my spine is extending upward to the left. However, as my shoulders rotate, it never really looks like in a mirror or a camera that I'm still tilting left. In order to get in the proper position to stay on top of the golf ball, stack and tilt, you extend your spine, you tilt to the left, and then you rotate, and you come right back over the top of the golf ball. And it doesn't injure my lower back at all.
Okay. So you don't buy that theory?
No, I don't. I don't. Now, I if they're talking about some other part of your back, I can't really speak.
Lower back. I think we're focused on a lower back issue.
Yeah. Now, I don't think I understand the theory completely.
Okay. Is that your favorite method these days, is teaching stack and tilt? Because you have, like you've already said, and on your website, you have lots of different swings, and I guess it depends on what you feel like, or the student.
The point I'd like to make is the stack and tilt theory has been around a long, long time. I mean, the components of it. You can see the components, some of the components in Jack Nicklaus's swing, but then somebody would look at him and say, well, he doesn't take his arms around his body like, the stack and tilter. His arms are up there, so how could he be a stack and tilter? I'm not saying that he's a stack and tilter. I'm saying he's got a component of it in his golf swing.
I see.
And if you go directly to the stack and tilt model, now, no, I'm going to say that that's not my favorite swing. But I love the components. The pendulum hip motion with the shoulder stillness over the top of the golf ball. I like the component of the arms coming in because it's angular power to the golf ball as they come back. Do I try to fit everybody into that model? Not at all. There's some guys that I say, well, let's keep this component going for you. And you do what you want with your arms because you've been playing golf for the last 30 years. You seem to know what you want to do with your hands. And it still works. I mean, plainly as I can say, Sam Snead and Ben Hogan had very similar shoulder-centered stillness in their swing with pendulum hip motion and a spring load pattern finish. But their swings really didn't look much alike. However, they had that component working together. And I think if you look at this stuff and say, well, it's an interesting theory, I'm going to see which component maybe would work for me. You don't have to take all of them and try to be the exact model of stack and tilt to get something out of these theories that they came up with. And then again, there's studies of stack and tilt. It's interesting how it happened. They never called it stack and tilt. Mike and Andy are great guys. They just simply submitted their information to Golf Digest, and one of the writers there tagged it stack and tilt. And I don't know if he actually kiboshed them by doing that or not, but it's...
Well, it sounds like that you, and this seems unique from the people I've spoken to, and maybe I'm misreading them. Did you just walk into a wind tunnel or something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to... Go ahead. Could you repeat that question?
Are you now, or have you ever been? No, it's that a lot of teachers seem to have a method that they teach, the ones that I've spoken to, and that they will advocate that method to any student that they have. But it seems as if you will spend time with the student and watch their swing and see what their tendencies are, and then kind of customize your lesson to their tendencies to create the right swing for them. Am I reading this correctly?
That's really close to what I try to do. I mean, let's face it, we all have different expectation levels, and I'll sometimes maybe get a newer player to the game, and they can't seem to make contact with the ball before the ground. They hit the ground, or they can't get it in the air. If I put them into that right side golf swing stuff where they never move off their left side, the club head has a tendency to contact the ground in more of the same spot if they never move off their left side. Would you agree with that?
Okay.
So you just, it's kind of like you're creating a little circle with a club head going around your body.
Right.
If you move your weight and shift it over to your right foot, and it stays there, you have a new contact spot on the ground. So you want to, I've always thought, well, I got to get my student to be able to contact the ball first and then the ground. So if you never move off your left side, you just increase the chances quite a bit of doing that. I've had students that after I put them into that position, they start hitting their 5-iron, I don't know, maybe 150 yards, which to me doesn't seem like very much, but they love it, and that's all they want, and they're very happy with that. Now then there's others that say, okay, what's next? How do I get more power? And then you put in another component of the pendulum hip motion, because the way I see it, I never want to see a student move with their shoulder center over their right side. It's highly ineffective, it's not very powerful, and it's going to create injury over a period of time. And that's that conventional style swing that we saw come about in the 80s, and it continued on into, I'm going to call it the X Factor era. And I say that with love too to Jim McLean, because I did work for his academy at one time, and I really was involved in that theory. I taught that theory. It's funny, golf and the golf swing has come full circle back to what they used to do when they first started playing golf, keeping the head still, staying on top of the ball. And I wonder sometimes why it has come full circle and why they figured it out years ago. And I think it has a lot to do with equipment, Fred.
How so?
Those guys, well, when you think about the equipment they used, if they didn't hit the sweet spot, the ball went nowhere, because the sweet spot was about the size of a BB, and if they didn't hit the sweet spot, it felt terrible, and the ball went nowhere. So they learned real quick to keep their head or their shoulder center more on top of the ball, and then they devised different ways of power.
Interesting.
So and now we have great equipment. And if you hit the sweet spot, it goes even further. So, there's a lot of guys out on the tour. I mean, Tiger Woods is basically now stack and tilt. Do you want to know about that?
Well, and is that working for him? I mean, what? Nothing's working for him right now. Is he tweaking too much, or is he?
Not his golf. I wouldn't say it's not his golf swing. I mean,
oh really?
I think Tiger's got to reinvent himself a little bit there and put his family life first for a while. But he's got so much talent. We used to say that Tiger Woods would find a way to win if he switched to left-handed.
Yeah, right, right. Well, you think his mental game is just so damaged right now, and that it doesn't matter what he's doing with this swing?
I do. It's interesting. He did an interview recently, and he talked about how he changes the release on all three types of shots in golf when he changes his swing. He said he's done it before, and what he meant by that is a putt has a different release, a chip has a different release, and the swing has a different release. And he likes all of them to have the same type of release. So basically, he's making adjustments with all three facets of the game with the swing change. Now, I found that really interesting. I thought, wow, maybe that's why he's missing the cup on a 5 or 6 foot putt by about an inch. And, because I've never seen him putt so bad in my life. He used to, I think he hits the ball better in some tournaments now. His stats at least have shown that. Granted, he's, snap took some 3-woods 123 yards and stuff like that. But I don't know exactly, other than the fact that he might have to reinvent his life a little bit and then he'll be back. Don't know if it's physical or I don't really think it's his golf swing.
Well, that is a whole nother show. I mean, and every single week can be a discussion of, what everyone thinks of Tiger Woods and what's his problem right now. But I really wanted to focus more on you and your lessons today. And I also want to recommend that anybody that goes to Billy's website, that check out the video archive. There's a lot of YouTube videos on there, and you're going to learn a lot just by watching these. And then, of course, if you have more questions, even though Billy is based up in New England and is giving lessons up there at the Longest Drive Center up in South Dennis, Massachusetts, you don't have to be there to get that lesson, right? You'll do online lessons.
Yeah, I've got students over in Switzerland sending me their videos. With the new apps and the technology, it's fantastic. It's amazing. Download the V1 golf app to your phone, everybody, and have a blast.
Now, that's an iPhone. Is it only available on the iPhone?
No, on Droids, the Droid.
The Android? It's on Android as well?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. That's what I'm an Android guy.
I'm sure there's probably some other golf apps out there too, but it's a great swing analyzer, the V1.
Really? And, well, I'm going to also check it out. I just got an iPad too. Woohoo! So I'm going to.
I think it's $4 for the year to download the pro version of it.
Really?
And you can compare your swing to all kinds of pros and stuff. It's a blast.
Okay.
And then email me your swing or send it to me via your phone. I'll take a look at it and analyze it. My cost is pretty cheap. I spend quite a bit of time and charge $30 for a video.
There you go.
Analysis.
Cool. Well, I just looked up in the App Store on the iPad there, and they have an iPad version of V1 Golf. It's $4, $3.99. 60% off Giant Get Ready for Golf sale is now on. Okay. Well, I'm going to start getting suckered into this stuff too. Oh, man, these toys. All right. Well, Billy, it's been great talking to you. And unfortunately, we have about 30 minutes. We've already passed that up. We could go on and on and on. So hopefully you will return much sooner than you did last time. It won't take you 4 years to come back to Golf Smarter.
Oh, Fred, I'd love to. Thanks for having me. You did a great show.